6:30. It is Friday, October 27th. Crazy. November is right around the corner. Don't forget trick-or-treaters starting probably this weekend. So be careful out there on the roadways. This week's code of conduct is to maintain respectful behavior when one is driving a company vehicle or wearing a company logo. You're always representing this company. Any words of wisdom of this code item, Mr. Dow?
Wisdom, huh? Set the example of how you want to be treated in the way that you act. Set the example for others. It's a good way to think about it.
Yep. Nice job over the last week. 177 days from our last OSHA recordable. And it's been 24 days since the last first aid injury. So again, our best safety system that we have is that morning JHA where we all kind of get together, develop the game plan for the day, talk about our hazards or at least our known hazards or potential hazards that we might encounter and how to properly mitigate those hazards. And if there's any questions, that's a great time to ask them. And again, if there is any safety suggestions that you might need, contact health and safety. There's 3 of us now. We're running around trying to visit all the job sites each week. But again, feel free to give us a call and we'll help give guidance or even come to the site and help you mitigate those hazards on site. So please utilize us. With that said, we have Amy joining us from PT 360. We have seen an elevated lower back issues throughout the company. So this is kind of the perfect time to bring her in to help mitigate and prevent, but also help teach us some good exercises and things that we could do before a back injury might spike, so we can try to lower that exposure and that potential for all of our workers. So Amy, I'll unshare the screen and I'll let you take it away.
Good morning. Is my screen up now?
It is.
Perfect. Okay. So like Matt said, we're going to talk about low back pain. We've talked about this in a couple different ways over the years. I'm going to take it from the pain perspective and then kind of wrap it up at the end as to some prevention. I know you all are getting towards the end of your season. You guys are working hard and long hours out there. There's days when I'm driving down Williston Road where I want to cheer for you guys. I'm like, great, you're using awesome mechanics. And there's days I really want to pull myself off to the side and be like, can I fix you right now? So I might do that one day. So just some basics on low back pain. Low back pain is the most common cause of disability in people under the age of 45. It's the most expensive healthcare problem we have for people between 20 and 50, and it accounts for 25% of workers' comp claims. So back pain is a big issue. Most of us will experience back pain in our lifetime. So the stats are all over the place from 60 to 90%. Good news, 66% of people fully recover and never have another episode again. So that's a good chunk of people that will have back pain once, never revisit it. There's a subset, 34%, that will have recurrent back pain. My guess is there's a population in ECI and in construction that probably falls into this as well, just because of the nature of your work. So really, what is pain? It's something we all talk about, but really understanding what pain is can actually help us treat it from a different perspective outside of just exercise. So pain itself is actually a subjective experience. Nociception is the actual neural pathway. So think of that electrical pathway that goes from the point of pain up to our spinal cord and then up to our brain. And our brain's the thing that interprets that nociception and causes pain. Pain itself, so that subjective experience, is the perceived need to protect body tissue. I think this is something I want everyone to keep in the back of their brains. It's a perceived need to protect our body. And that might actually explain why 2 people can have the same injury, the same surgery, and have very different levels of pain, because our brain interprets that nociception very differently. Pain, that subjective experience, is modulated both at the spinal cord and at our brain. It can be upregulated so that dial can get turned up. That happens if pain persists longer than an injury after an injury has healed. In cases of fear, or chronic stress. It can also downregulate pain if your body finds it's not threatening. So an example of that might be you're walking and you stub your toe a little bit. You look down and you go, oh, that wasn't bad. You kind of turn down that pain. But if you're walking, you stub your toe and you realize that that stub toe is maybe broken, you think it's broken, your pain goes way up there. So that's how our body can regulate that pain. We think it's something threatening, we turn it up. It's a sign to say, hey, go get help. Or could turn it down and say, if it says, that's nothing. And it can also change our movement strategies, which is really important to think about for backs. So if our back is in pain, we're going to stiffen up and be really tight. But what happens with that is we kind of move as one big unit instead of as segments. So thinking about that, there's three kind of different types of pain. Acute pain is that pain with, say, for your back, you've been bending over a rebar all week. Your back's a little bit sore, and then all of a sudden you go to tie your shoe, you stand up, and you can't move. There was no major event, but the events leading up where you're standing in that bent position all week. And maybe at that point, you just blew out a disc. A disc just slips out and pushes out back. It's pushing on a nerve and you can no longer stand up. That's acute pain. There is a very specific structural injury that just happened. Your body has a very specific response to that. Chronic pain is when the pain lasts after that initial injury has healed. So using that example of just throwing out your disc, that disc usually falls back into place within a week or two. If the material inside the disc actually squeezed out into the area around your spinal cord and your nerves, again, 2 weeks later, that pain tends to go away. You might be left with a little bit of a squished disc, and that might be the result of it and cause some chronic pain. But that's where chronic pain can start. Again, that pain dial is turned up with chronic pain. So the body has healed that area, but there's still a signal. Our body is still perceiving a threat to that area. We still think there's something wrong. And again, in chronic pain, we really change how we move. And then this is the tricky one, which I feel like I see a lot in our 40 plus crowd, is that acute injury that happens when you already have chronic pain. So you might have chronic pain from some arthritis. So those discs between the bones of your back have decreased. So those joints come closer together. You have a little arthritis there. And then all of a sudden you do that same thing. You're bending over a rebar, you stand up, your back hurts, you can't move again. That's an acute on chronic. And I'm seeing that a lot more. And that's kind of the part I want to focus on, is that acute on chronic pain. And how do we manage that? How do we deal with that ahead of time so we could avoid that, maybe that second acute issue? And then if we have chronic pain, what do we do to manage that on a daily basis? So in our acute low back pain, the pain from the disrupted structure should resolve in a predictable manner. So 24 hours to 2 weeks. So, say you're getting out of your truck, you twist, and all of a sudden you go, oh, my back hurts a little bit. Something like that, 24 hours, that should be gone away. You should wake up the next morning. You should be good to go from work. Again, think about that perceived threat. You might have that initial discomfort, but think, did I really hurt my back? Let me just think about this. Can I do some stretches or some early exercise? Just, rolling your leg side to side to get rid of it. If you're someone that takes Tylenol or ibuprofen, is that something that you can do? I would say under doctor supervision to manage that early little pain. That should go away pretty quickly. And like I said, some things like a disc issue might take longer. When we manage that, again, this is really important. I think using that price, that really protection, rice, ice, and back, we don't really use the compression elevation, but doing a little bit of protection at first, but not overprotecting. When we don't overprotect, we want to use that gentle movement. So using pain as your guide. Don't protect just because you think you have to. That perceived threat is, maybe not there. Try some gentle movement and see if that helps. And that's that progressive return to work. And that but back turn injury, you might be back the next day, totally fine. If you've really thrown out your back, you might be talking to Matt about some early modifications so that you can work, but we're not making that pain persist longer than it has to because you're trying to like really gung-ho go back. So I think that's a really important component of paying attention to it, but recognizing, is there still a threat there? So that chronic low back pain might be from the consequences of your acute injury. So say you really blew out a disc, that disc might be a little bit shorter now. You might be having some compressive issues in your spine. You might have some long-term issues from that. It might be that non-specific low back pain that we've talked about in the past, and you might have that continued perceived threat. You might have some short-term or long-term limitations, and it might depend on the anatomy. If you are in your 60s and still doing field work, you might have some arthritis. We might make some changes like taking a break every, hour or two just to do 5 minutes of stretching. That might get you through the day. Sitting down after a couple hours, actually taking a lunch. Like some of those things might actually go a long way. So you're still working and still able to work hard. A really important thing with chronic low back pain that I think we all forget about is once you're cleared by a healthcare professional, that might be a doc, that might be someone like myself, exercise is actually really, really important. So whether that's aerobic exercise, high intensity, body weight, weightlifting, that's really key to managing chronic pain and or working towards getting rid of it. So sometimes we shy away from exercise because we have that perceived threat that, oh, I can't do anything with my back. But exercise is actually really, really helpful with this chronic pain. And finding the right exercise is going to be key to getting you to be able to work longer and harder with less pain. That acute on chronic is always that fun one of you've been doing all the right stuff with that chronic low back pain, you heard it again, and we're just kind of going back to the drawing board, managing those initial symptoms, and then trying to get you back to moving a lot faster so this does not build on itself. So I'm going to do the back anatomy at the end. I usually do it at the beginning, but taking a look at our back structure, these discs between the bones, those are often sources of pain, as well as those yellow nerves that come through. So the nerve sends our signals of strength, sensation, and reflexes. Those are compressed. They can be often painful, and they're painful in a very specific pathway. Our muscles can be sources of pain. So if you look on the left side of the screen, you have these big, long muscles. If those are taking over, because those little tiny short muscles on the right side of the screen aren't working, we get a lot of compressive forces, and that in itself can be a problem because we're changing how we're moving. We're using those big muscles instead of the small muscles. Like I said, we could get arthritis at our joints as well. So all of these things can be sources of pain, but in the long term, our body should reduce that perceived threat and really try to get past that to get rid of the pain. So kind of what's next in this? I'd like to do another piece at our next meeting to really go over some of the exercise pieces of this. But first of all, recognize how you feel about the pain. Do you think the pain is hurting you or causing more damage? That could turn up that dial. And I think that's a huge part. If we could take you from an 8 down to a 5 just because of that, I think that's a win in my book. Don't perseverate on imaging. This is a hard one for a lot of people. So if you get an image, an x-ray or an MRI, and it says, oh, my back is a mess, especially over 40, our backs are going to be a little bit messy. Don't perseverate that and put that to your pain. So don't say, because my back is a mess, that's causing my pain. It actually might not be. That might just be the way your spine is. And that's a hard sell for a lot of people, but I think it's an important one to consider because that's also something that could help turn the dial down. The anatomical changes in your back don't always relate to the pain that you're having. Advocate for yourself. So I think this is a big one. When you're out in the field, if you need help lifting, ask for help lifting. I know Matt and the safety team pushes, lifting certain weights, avoiding heavier weights, using the tools that you have, but really advocate for yourself. If you're trying to lift something or do something and you need assistance, make sure you're asking for that assistance so you don't throw your back out again. And then using that correct lifting, sitting, and driving postures. You guys are taught those, all of us. If you've seen us in the clinic, we're sitting over our desk sometimes, hunched over. It slips away from us all, but try to always remember to use those correct postures because those are going to go a long way to protect yourself from those acute injuries, which can lead to those chronic ones. And that's all I've got for today.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. Very informative. I have one question on inverted tables. We've have a lot of employees that have them. And we actually picked one up and put it up here at Health and Safety for employees to use when their backs are hurting. How long should one be on it? And just, do you have any words of wisdom on inverted tables at all?
That's a good question. we don't use them in the clinic, so I don't actually have specific recommendations on times. I could send that to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I could take a look at that, but I think they can be really helpful. I think people that have, again, that 40 plus crowd that might have some compressive issues, and have some of those changes in movement patterns, it just gives a little stretch to those muscles, those ligaments. The discs are allowed to have a little more space, and kind of like sponges, they'll fill back up with water a little bit. So they can be really helpful. But I could give you specific instructions on, how long someone should be on there, and things to look out for if it goes wrong.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sounds good. We look forward to the next module here on stretching.
Yes.
And posture, yes, important. I agree. All kinds of things. Yeah, sit up straight there, Matt Saganowicz.
It's so
All right,
no
Shoulders
promote that
back, shoulders
position.
back.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You too. So I'll take over the screen. I figure out which one. I think it's this one. No, that's not the one I wanted. Try that again. Share. Hit the right window. Sometimes hard to tell which window. Still not the right one. I don't think. Is that my
Check
email screen?
Yeah,
What's
your
that?
email.
Yeah. Should be easy to pop up here. Back to here. To navigate around Windows. And let's see. I'm having trouble finding it on my window. Let's actually, let me try here. Sometimes it's hard to track down. I got, just a couple windows open. You know how that goes. That's strange. Well, Matt, I'll let you do it. I'm going to turn over Matt Saganowicz, do you have the email of the week set up on there, or you're going to do the presentation anyway?
Yeah, could you see that? I don't mind scrolling down for you, Ken.
Okay, that sounds good. And then Matt's going to take over for the presentation. I do see it. So first item is congratulations to Tanner Coffey for being the newest ECI foreman. So pretty exciting. Thank you, Tanner, for being, motivated and a driven person to get to that point, and we wish you luck. So the other thing is that we have a Morgan Stanley financial advisor representative coming to ECI on the 3rd. That's next Friday. So half-hour meetings available. Check with Melanie or just someone in the administration office. And then this October course is continuing as breast cancer awareness, and you can get your ECI pink logo for a $10 donation towards the UVM Cancer Foundation. And we have below that, we have the link to the healthcare wellness, our wellness program. And then Matt Saganowicz is going to give us the presentation for this week's project of the week. Kick it off, Matt. I don't know if you're taking over the screen or how you want to do that.
I will take it over just so I can kind of zoom in to some stuff that I want to point out here. So this is my blue beam. I apologize about the outer edges, but I think everybody could see it good.
Yes.
So Engineers Construction has contracted with the NECR to upgrade portions of their railroad as part of the CTC upgrade. This work includes a mainline number 10 turnout that we'll actually be discussing today. Installation of a derail in St. Albans, 20 bonded insulated joints that include 40 welds, and installation of 480 lineal feet of track. So I thought about, explaining what a number 10 or a turnout is and how it operates, just basic fundamental stuff. The function of a turnout is to switch trains from one direction to another. A turnout is a movable piece of track that allows a train to change direction without stopping. There are right-hand turnouts and left-hand turnouts. It's very simple. They make it basic. The turnout number is just a simple ratio that describes the angle of the turn. A good example, and these turnouts are very abrupt. They're not used very often, but they're good examples. For example, so a number 4 turnout has a ratio of 4:1, while a number 6 turnout has a ratio to 6:1. The smaller the ratio, the shorter the turnout, and the tighter the curve will be. So you can see here with a number 4, it's very tight. I mean, it's like taking a very, very sharp corner.
Something you
and
don't
then
normally do.
Yes, no, they're not very common. And then as you can see, a number 6 gets even spread out more, so it's less of a sharper turn. And then like the one we're talking about today is number 10. They go up to 20 for higher speed situations, which just make them longer and longer and longer and longer. The main components of a turnout is the switch, which is located at the beginning of the turnout. The switch controls the direction of the train will take. The switch is either controlled manually by an infield switch, or they can be controlled electronically from a dispatch station. Then they just flick it, it's electronic. The turnout that the real crew is building and installing is a number 10. A number 10 turnout has a very gradual curve. The turnout was pre-assembled and then disassembled by the manufacturer before arriving. So at the manufacturer, they put all this together. There's a lot of moving parts, like the pieces, a lot of precise, and I'll show you guys here in a second, a lot of precise layout and measurements to get this turnout perfect. So once it's disassembled, they truck it on site, and then the rail guys, unload it and reassemble it, put everything back together, and everything is pre-marked. So it just makes it a lot easier for the guys in the field to just get everything where it needs to be and reinstalled correctly. So this is a sheet, and I'm gonna zoom in and out so we can focus on some areas here. If it'll let me. Oh, there we go. So you can see this number 10 turnout's a pretty long turnout. I think overall it's like 116 feet because adding up the tie spacing. And this sheet is just like a lot of other plan sheets. It has general notes. It explains the components and how many there are, like an RPM frog, which is just a rail bound manganese. I hope I said that right. Frog, which is like a hardened steel. Manganese is like a hard steel. And the frog is right here, and that's what kind of is like the midpoint for where, once it's switched, where it goes together. There is a list of a bill of tie layouts. So there's many different size ties to achieve the separating pieces of track. So when this is delivered, all the track is removed, all unhitched, all the plates stay. So so they could relay it out and build it back together. A lot of work. The switch is up here and usually mounted right here to shift this is a left-hand turnout, as you guys can see. Pretty cool to see it all go together and how efficient these guys are at it. It's amazing to watch them work. This is out actually in Essex, right at the crescent connector. They're installing the number 10 turnout. This is Lee driving some spikes, while Mike Hutchins here is lifting the rail up into place, and they align it so that they could get it right in the perfect spot. And you can even see here, if I zoom in, there might be a better picture. You can see the markings here. That's where each tie goes. So they do a really good job. And I'll show you some other stuff. They do a really good job marking everything out, making it easy to preassemble. Here is the RBM frog. And it's a pretty heavy piece. And they just drop it in there. This one isn't attached, but they attach it by mandrel clips like these here. All these plates are laid out ahead of time, so they know where everything goes. And that's what they're doing here, is attaching, working their way through the turnout.
Is that the starting point of the work?
This is kind of the end or
But I mean, that's where they
midpoint.
start the layout and start the assembly from that point.
Yeah, they generally, what I saw out there is they started at the beginning down by the switch, work this whole side, and then, working the middle, and then the outer side. There we go. And you can see there's quite a bit to that, the way it's machined. Oh, and there's some more layout marks, just to get everything perfect. So this is looking at the beginning of the turnout, all the way down. You can see they didn't have the frog in yet. So that's what I mean. When I was there, they were working this side, getting it all attached, and then working in the middle. So this is the switch. You can see it says number 10 turnout, so nothing's confused. And this is what slides back and forth to get them to change direction. This is a picture, a downward picture of two pieces of rail together, and you can see they put like letters on there so they know how to match them. Just makes it easier in the field again, so it all goes back together the way it was manufactured. This is a kind of cool picture. The rail is stamped with the size, where it was made, and the year, and actually it's kind of hard to see here. I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but they actually have lines here that are the month. So this steel was made in Steelton, Pennsylvania, 2023 in May. 5 marks there.
New
Steelton,
stuff.
yeah, it's new stuff.
Very new.
And it's kind of interesting. I did a little research on Steelton. They are one of only 3 rail producers in America. It's located in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Big company. I checked out their website, and they just produce rail, which is kind of cool. It's kind of local, at least in our region. And that's a pandrel clip. That is how it's what holds the rail down onto the tie. This is the guys installing, Adam's installing a pandrel clip, and there's Lee and doing their thing. Oh, there we go. Sorry. And that's it. That's all I have for today.
Very cool.
It is kind of cool, especially when you get out there and see how, like, these guys don't even really talk. They just do this, and
Right.
they know how it goes together. There's like no words really being said. And I asked tons of questions, and they were easy to talk to me and answer my questions, and they just keep working, and each one of them knows what to do and what needs to be done next. It's quite impressive to see these guys do this work.
Yep. Good. Well, thank you, Matt. And for the photo archives, we have the AT&T conduit installation. This is somewhere on the NECR Roxbury sub. So somewhere between Essex and actually in White River Junction, right? I can't really tell where that underpass is, but it's a nighttime operation, so it's hard to tell. But that was summer 1998. It's amazing. That's been like how many years now? So
25.
25 years. Wow. Okay, I'll turn it back over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Amy, and she jumped off. But
Yep.
again, just a reminder for the ones that do have inverted tables at home, or ones that are looking to try one out, we do have one up in health and safety now. So if you are struggling with some chronic back pain and you want to jump on it, it's up here at health and safety in the kind of in our round table room in the back there.
So we'll get instructions from Amy and post them on the wall.
Exactly.
Yep.
If you're watching a group setting, please send over attendance so we can capture it. And let's have a safe day. Let's have a great day.
Okay, good. Thank you.